Hola estudiantes, buenas. Welcome to another video grammar lesson for Spanish language. This one is going to be titled Verbs like Gustar with the subtitle, This Pleases Me. All right, verbs like gustar are a set of verbs in the Spanish language that when they are used regularly in conversation, are constructed in the reverse order from what we use them in English. And that might be a little confusing to some people, so I'm going to go ahead and put a couple sentences up here in English and Spanish so that we can kind of compare and contrast the two of them. Okay, so here are our two sentences. All right, so first off we have our English sentence which states, I like the pizza. When we look at that sentence, when we break it down, I is going to be the subject, like is going to be the verb, the pizza is going to be the direct object. When I take that same sentence and I put its equivalent in Spanish, the structure is going to be a little bit different from what we're seeing here. In this sentence, all right, so gusta is the verb that we're using here, and I'm pretty sure most Spanish teachers will teach their students, at least in the beginning, that gustar means to like. So when I say me gusta, that means I like it. What's actually happening here is that me is an indirect object. All right, that means to me. All right, gusta, the literal translation, is to please, and then la pizza is going to be our subject. All right, so what we're seeing here in English is subject, I, like, verb, the pizza, direct object, whereas what we're seeing in Spanish is me, indirect object, gusta, the verb, followed by la pizza, the subject. All right, since each one of these sentences is going to deal with an indirect object of the sentence being swayed in some way by a subject that usually shows up later on in the sentence, one of the first things that we should talk about is probably the indirect object pronouns. All right, so indirect object pronouns, these are the people or things for whom or to whom something is being done. All right, so a direct object pronoun would be like the person or thing that's actually being acted upon. This indirect object pronoun is the one that is going to be kind of like the beneficiary of the action. So the pizza is pleasing, and who is it pleasing to? Who's the beneficiary of that? It's me. All right, so the indirect object pronouns, the to whom or for whom something is being done, I'm going to throw them up on our regular old conjugation chart like we always see. All right, so here we go. In the yo form, if I'm the one who's being pleased by the pizza, it is going to be me gusta. All right. In the to form, if the person whom I am addressing is being pleased by the pizza, it is te gusta la pizza. If it's him or her that likes the pizza, or we're saying he or she is pleased by the pizza, it's going to be le gusta. All right. For the nosotros form, it's going to be nos. For the vosotros form, putting a star here, only in Spain, they use os. For the ellos, ellas, ustedes form, we've got les. One thing to keep in mind when you're talking about any type of a pronoun, whether it is a reflexive pronoun, a direct object pronoun, an indirect object pronoun, the first person singular, second person singular, first person plural, and second person plural, those forms of the pronouns usually do not change. All right, so honestly, when we're talking about it, we only ever have to worry about learning something new in the third person singular or the third person plural forms. So for the indirect object pronouns, those third person forms are le and les. The verb itself, when it gets used normally in these constructions with the verbs like gustar, is regularly only going to be in the third person singular or in the third person plural, depending on the object that is causing the pleasant feeling with the verb gustar. For example, our original sentence, me gusta la pizza. All right, since the pizza is singular and that is the subject of the sentence, this verb gustar is going to be put into the third person singular to match the pizza. So gusta matches la pizza. All right, and once again, the me in front is the person who is receiving this pleasant feeling. All right, so the pizza is pleasing. Who is it pleasing to? It's pleasing to me. All right. In the second example sentence, we got te gustan las películas de acción. So las películas de acción, action movies, are the subject in question when we're asking if you are pleased by the action movies. So since las películas is plural, then gustar also needs to be in its third person plural form. And once again, the te is you, all right? Are you the person who is receiving the pleasantry of the action movies? All right, since I have kind of conditioned my students to be used to seeing everything in the conjugation chart, this is the verb gustar in the forms that you would generally see it. All right, so if I like one thing, chocolate, me gusta el chocolate. If I like several things, all right, my children, me gustan mis hijos. All right, and the same thing through all the other forms. So you'll notice that the verb gustar is only going to be showing up in its singular and plural third person, whereas what really changes for each one of the different forms of the verb is the indirect object pronoun out in front of that verb. All right, so once again, these things are working this direction because the sentence structure is reversed from what it is in English. On a side note, one of the things you don't want to be using when you're creating these structures is subject pronouns. So keep in mind that the red pen means that you should not write this down. But I'm going to show you some bad examples of things that you shouldn't be doing. All right, so in these three example sentences, I've got yo me gustan los perros. And once again, that is not something that you would want to write down. Tú te gusta leer, and él le gusta el fútbol. All right, so we don't want to be using the subject pronouns with these. So instead of yo, I'm going to get rid of that, and we're going to use in its place a me, which means to me. All right, same thing here with the to form. Instead of tu, we want to put a ti. All right, to you. Reading is pleasing. All right, and for the L form, instead of that one, we want to put a él. All right, so to him, football is pleasing. So the first sentence would interpret as I like dogs, where what it's literally saying is to me, they are pleasing, the dogs. All right, same thing with the second one. Our interpretation of that would be you like to read, where what it actually says is reading is pleasing to you, except it's reversed from that, the structure of the sentence. All right, and then the final one, a él le gusta el fútbol, would mean he likes soccer, but it's actually saying to him, soccer is pleasing. On the plural side, we would be using a nosotros instead of just nosotros by itself, a vosotros instead of just vosotros by itself, and we would be using a ellos or a ellas or a ustedes. This list is a bunch of other verbs that work just like the verb gustar does. All right, so it's going to have the whole reversed sentence structure with an indirect object pronoun, and the verbs are going to be usually set in the third person, singular or plural. Do take a minute and take note of these. You'll be expected to understand that these ones also work just like verbs like gustar. I will tell you that the verb doler is a stem changing verb, O-to-U-E stem change. At the very end of the list, you've got the verbs importar and the phrase dar igual. All right, so if I say no me importa, that means it's not important to me. I will tell you, though, that a lot of people might see this as rude if you use it in conversation. So if someone asks you, hey, what do you want to do this evening? And you say, no me importa. A lot of people would see that as being, it's kind of rude, it's kind of standoffish. Dar igual is kind of like the same idea behind that, except it's like to be just without a preference. So if somebody asked me what I wanted to do tonight, I could say, no me importa, or me da igual. And it would have the same idea behind it, but importar would be kind of like rude and offensive. Just be aware in writing these down that this is not a comprehensive list. These are not all of the verbs that work like gustar. as an aside, I did want to kind of touch on the fact that these verbs can be used regularly, but just realize that the structure of the sentence is still reversed. All right, so when I say me gustas mucho, what I'm actually saying with that sentence is the gustar is in the to form. So you are the one causing the pleasing feeling, and me is the indirect object, so it means like to me. All right, so what that sentence would say is, I like you a lot. And then the follow-up question says, es que no te gusto? That's asking, like, is it that you don't like me? Because gusto is put in the yo form. So gustar means to please. I'm the one pleasing. And then te is the indirect object pronoun. And so that would be you. All right, so es que no te gusto means, is it that you don't like me?